Beautiful. So welcome along everyone to our last Yin session. We're going to be focusing today on the urinary bladder channel. So this channel starts like between your eyeballs and goes up and over the top of your head and all the way down the back of the spine. It goes on either side of the spine, all the way down the hamstrings, and then ends down there in the soles of the feet. So it's really very much about the whole back chain. When we talk about the kidney and the urinary bladder, they create a pair that work synergistically together to tonify the body and represents that deep element of water. So we're still kind of working with that like adrenal energy and like really deep stores of the body. We do this type of practice. I find that working in those deep forward folds and we work with the urinary bladder, it's so much of like a spinal energy, and we can really start to feel that. So we'll do a little bit of those like deep spinal flexion movements. We'll do some movements where we have our hands on top of the back of the head and we kind of feel into that, like kind of a neural stretch, as I call it. As we move through practice, we're going to be working with these points here a little bit. So we'll be doing a pose where we put our hands, I'll be saying, like in this shape for like that targeting of bladder 1, 2, and then 3 right on the crown of the head. Very like centering points. We use them kind of more energetically to like gather awareness and like activate that kind of ajna energy of the third eye. So like centered and calm awareness. So you can always access that point there through those points. So we're going to get started today in a standing position on our mat. So if you have, oh yeah, our strap. We need to make the strap. So if you have your strap, if you're going to use that for practice, we're going to take our strap and put it through both D-rings. And then it turns over on itself and it goes over the first one and under the second one to create like what I call like a little backpack strap. And we're not going to leave too much of a tail. So we just want a little tiny tail there because we're going to use it in this big looping shape. If you're at home and you're doing this practice and you don't have a strap, you can always just use something like a scarf for practice. Okay. So we will get started again. We're going to come up to that standing shape. Let's bring the strap just to the side. We're going to be using the 2 blocks in the bolster shortly as well. So making sure that those aren't necessarily at the back of the mat. We're going to have them nice and close to the front of the mat. Good. Okay, cool. That looks good. Lift it up. Okay, so finding your mountain pose and feeling into all 4 corners of your feet grounding down. For this first shape, let's turn the palms to face forward. And we'll just start to feel into a groundedness down in the legs. The breath pouring down to fill the legs, spread the feet on the floor. And then let's find this even quality through all 4 corners of our feet and a soft knee. And for our first movement today, we'll do a bounce. So this is a really good like cleanse system. So what I want you to do first is just bend the knees and just allow your body to bounce, right? So it's like this what we want to feel is that the whole body just gets loose. So if you notice that the head is really stiff, it won't allow this kind of release. So we're just getting really relaxed, and it might become like a bigger movement where your heels lift off the floor and there's that kind of pounding of the heels on the ground. Okay. So the arms are there. They're just like jelly, right? The head might get involved and we're just bouncing. And for some of you, like this might turn into like almost like a little jump, right? Like just really allowing it to be yours and like closing your eyes. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but the more like gently like you can be, the better it is. Okay. And then we're going to do this for a few more breaths and we're going to add our breath in. We're going to take a deep breath in and then open the mouth and let the breath go. Okay, good. 2 more. Last one. Okay, once we're done bouncing, we're gonna like slowly slow it down. Okay, so if you're doing something like me, taking your time to kind of come slowly back into stillness. I invite you to feel just this beautiful tingling on the surface of the skin. Shoulders melting away from the ears. I'll take an inhale and we'll just pull the body forward. So we're going to do these a couple practices. That was the first one. This is our second one of just clearing energy in the body. So I'm going to face you for this one. So our hands start just on the inner ankles, right? And we're going to slide our hands up the inner legs. Okay. And they're going to cross across the belly and across the chest. Okay. And then we're going to grab a hold of the outside of opposite arms and then slide our arms down, our hands down the opposite arm. And we take a big breath in and then we throw energy away. It's like consciously letting go of all negativity in the body. And we grab a hold of opposite elbows and we slide the hands back down and the hands meet like fingers across the chest. Okay. And then we're going to go up and over the top of your head. Slide down the outside of your body. Slide all the way down the outside of the legs. You're coming into that forward fold. And then again, we take a breath at the bottom. We take a big breath in and we throw the energy away. And we're going to go up the insides of the legs. I was going to do this a couple more times. And of course, we're starting to kind of awaken that back body as well. But the intention here is really to cleanse like anything that we might be carrying that we come in contact with that's sitting in our skin and our body. Take a big breath in and exhale. Let it go. Good. Now keep going at your own pace. So again, the hands cross at the chest. We touch our heart space and they go up and over the top of the head. And we sweep down the outside of the body, coming into the forward fold. And then out through the feet, we take a big breath in and we throw the energy away. And we're going to do one more full set and we're going to meet in the forward fold at the end of that. So coming all the way up. Really good technique to have in your toolkit. Yeah, breath in, throwing away. Good. And then again, come across the chest, up and over the top of your head. And then we come down the outside of the body. And this time we are going to land after this final breath in the fold. So take your big breath in one final time. And throwing all of that unwanted energy away. We're going to meet in ragdoll. So you might choose, depending on how tight you are, to adjust your feet a little bit. So the wider your feet, the more accessible this pose. This is a pose that we can definitely use props with. So if you're very tight in your hamstrings today, what I recommend doing is taking a bolster and putting that on its nose so that your head is supported. So it's vertically there on an angle and you can support your head and allow your arms to dangle. Right? This pose is called dangle or ragdoll. So like what we're really looking for is for the body just to be hanging down. Some of us have a lot more flexibility, and if that's you, you might choose to use blocks on top of the bolster or just the bolster itself and those elbows. It doesn't have to be a static pose. I think especially, for one of our first poses of practice, if there needs to be a little bit of movement as you get settled into this one, that's perfectly fine. And if you can, just releasing any subconscious tension held in your neck. So that just means allowing the head to fall down. You might shake the head out a little bit. The cheeks are soft. Making sure that the toes are spreading, the soles of the feet feel nice and wide here. My intention is to lengthen out your exhales for this posture and add a little pause at the end of exhale. So big breath in, slow and deep breath out.
And you pause at the end of exhale before you take another breath. Last 6 breaths or so in this pose, what we'll start doing is tracing the channel with a breath. So we inhale from the soles of the feet up the Achilles tendon, the calves, the hamstrings, right up to the sits bones, the back of the pelvis with inhale. And then exhale like a waterfall. We pour the breath down your back, up the back of the legs. And like a rinse for the spine and the brain, the breath pours down your back body through your skull and onto the floor. Two more breaths. Okay, so that was a really nice long hold. When we're done with that pose, we'll just take our bolster or a pillow, whatever you have, and slide it back between your legs. Okay, back between your legs. And then we're going to sit down slowly on top of the bolster. So we're coming into Malasana, which is yogi squat. For some of us, this pose needs more support. So if you need something on top of the bolster, like a block underneath your pelvis, then that's a nice place to be. Let's take a moment when we arrive in the pose just to feel the spine neutralize. This practice awakens the energy body so immediately. So as we sit in stillness, we just come back to sense into that pulsing on the surface of the skin, the throbbing of the inner body. Now you're welcome to stay in this variation of this pose. If you want to add more, we're just going to tuck the chin in and use your hands behind your head. Now, this is what I'm saying about the neural stretch. You will feel that really immediately in the back of your neck, and for lots of us, all the way down the length of the spine. The more you curl in, the more the chin is on the chest, and the more weight you apply to the back of the head, the stronger that pose becomes. So modify that accordingly. And as your chin is in, you might choose to turn your head side to side really slowly. So that's going to put either side of the neck on stretch. So if you have your head in, we're just going to be in this variation for about 3 more breaths. If it's becoming too intense for you, then please come out of the pose a little bit early. We're going to stay in Malasana and just slowly release your hands from the back of your head. And with time, we'll just allow the head to float into neutral.
Just having a few moments there. Let's see if we can create hollowness in the mouth, the back of the tongue soft, the spine really wide, the mind spacious. And we're going to stay in Malasana, and especially for those of us that did that forward movement, we'll now do something that's a release for our neck. So we've done this many times with me in practice, but it's always a bit of a different stretch. So I'll turn to show you. We're just going to tuck the chin in, okay, and cross at the wrist and bring the fingertips to the opposite jaw, okay? And we're staying in this Malasana shape. We're just going to lift the chin up. We're going to use our hands to drag down, like catching fascia through your neck and moving down, anchoring one hand on top of the bottom hand, and then lifting your chin up. And then taking a big breath in, and then opening your mouth. And closing your mouth, still keeping the chin up. And then as the head comes back into neutral, we just slide the hands down towards the sternum and have a moment and find a breath. And then come on to the other side. So the chin comes in, the other side just means opposite wrist comes in front, and we slide our hands to the opposite jawline. And as we inhale, we lift the chin up, and we want to use your hands to traction fascia. We have lots of energetic holding that's held there through the throat, and also lots of small muscles here that often are very tight. So we're giving them a little massage, and most importantly, we're finding that tractioning feeling with our hands around the throat. And then we're lifting the chin up, pulling your hands down, and then taking a big breath in, opening the mouth, closing the mouth, but keeping the chin up and reaching the chin to the sky. And the hands pressed down towards the sternum as the head comes into neutral. And we'll stay in this Malasana shape just for a few more breaths, the hands in any natural position. They can be open or together in prayer. Head comes into neutral. Let's take our final breath in the pose, a deep breath in. And then finding, if you don't have already your hands extended, let's extend the arms out. Let's take the thumbs inside of your fists and then roll through the wrists. So 3 in one direction, Three in the other direction. Right, now we're going to come into a lunge. This pose, we'll feel it in a lot of different places, but the target of this pose is really the Achilles tendon in the back of your ankle, essentially. So what we want to do is come into a lunge with the knee extending further forward than your toes, right? So what I like to do is put the bolster here in front of the back leg and have blocks to eventually support my head. Now, I'll move my bolster so you can see that your knee needs to come forward of your ankle. It's okay if your ankle isn't on the floor, or your heel, I should say. That is actually ideal because what we really want to do is target the back of that leg. You're also going to feel it in your hip flexor of the left leg. You'll feel it in the hamstring or perhaps even the hip flexor of the right leg as well. But you want to use your body weight to press down onto that front leg. So you're kind of bringing your right hand on the outside of your right foot, and the right shoulder, the right armpit kind of hangs on the right knee, essentially. So maybe I'll like turn this way as well so you can see. So I'm getting into this shape. My knee comes forward. My hands are framing this right leg. Yeah. And then I'm leaning into the pose. This is very dense tissue that we're working with in the back of your right heel. So that Achilles area. So sometimes it just takes being in the pose for 3 or 4 breaths before we even start to feel that, depending on how tight it is. Now, once you're in that shape, you can support yourself with blocks underneath your head. And even that feeling of the back leg being hugged by the bolster is also supportive. So we're coming into the pose here. Lots to feel in this one. We don't normally allow that knee to come forward of the ankle, but we're doing it intentionally in this pose to target the back of the heel. And then finding your shape and allowing your eyes to close down. Oftentimes in the lunging poses, there's a lot of sensation, so we're starting to intentionally work with our breath. And if the chest is making contact with your thigh, we're just intentionally allowing the weight of your upper body to rest and land on your right thigh. If you have your right leg forward, belly really soft. There's lots of inner dialogue that tends to surface in these postures. Lots of judgment about the pose, perhaps the sensation. And our intention here is just to create a little bit of space between all of those thoughts and our action.
awareness, watching thoughts arise. We have 6 more breaths in this pose, so plenty of time to melt in. Noticing if there's tension carried inside of your mouth, your tongue, and letting that go. Last 2 deep exhales. Okay, so when you choose to come out of this pose, we've been in here for a while, and it's definitely one that we have stretched some fascia. So I invite you to go really slowly. We're going to come into child's pose as we come out of the shape. Yep. Crawling out. Wow. Sliding that leg back. And then into child. So you can do a nice supported child's pose there. Allowing the bolster to be underneath your pelvis. Perhaps you're using blocks there to support your head, your chest. And be in this in-between pose for about a minute, taking your time to really breathe down into your low back, filling that kidney area, the lumbar space with your inhale. And feeling a softness in the belly, receptivity washing over you with breath out. Be here for 3 more breaths. We're coming into that same lunging shape on the other side. So we know where we're going this time. We're going to slide the blocks forward if you're using those, and we'll take that big step forward with the left foot. Okay. So the bolster can slide in front of the right thigh if the left leg is forward. And then we want to get into this position where the knee is sliding generously forward from your ankle. Okay, your knee slides generously forward from the ankle. And for you, that might mean that your heel lifts off the floor. Okay. The target area, although, like we said, we're going to be feeling this in the hip flexors of that back leg, the hip flexor of this left leg is the ankle, right? And it takes a little bit of time to start stretching your Achilles tendon because it's so dense. It's one of the densest fascial areas of your whole body. So what we want to do is just get ourselves in that position. This left arm right on the outside of the knee. So the knee is effectively just kind of on the inside of that armpit. Lots going on in this pose. So some people feel it really immediately in the Achilles, and other people don't get the stretch in the Achilles, but I'm sure you'll be able to find a stretch somewhere in your body and feel the sensation kind of working on those deeper tissues, whether it's in your foot or more in your hips. So getting settled in. Lots of these points of the urinary and the kidney meridians circle around the ankles. It's a really dense area of neural tissue and really potent points when we're working with these two meridian pairs. So focusing your energy down there through the ankles, sending some breaths down into those really tight, dense tissues. It's a strong pose. So if you've gone too deep, too fast, then be sure to support yourself with a little bit of extra props. Definitely want to find a shape that we can feel effortless in, that we can just allow your body to hang in. If you find yourself kind of getting distracted or kind of coming out of the shape, let's focus our awareness on the third eye. So we bring the tongue up behind your two front teeth. And then the eyes are closed, but we're intensifying this drishti point or this gaze point on the forehead. So we're just looking with all of our awareness on the forehead. Tongue pressing into the upper palate. And as the mind focuses, noticing how the body can relax. So we have another 6 breaths in the pose. We focus on the mind being one pointed, and the body with exhale relaxing a bit more. Okay, last breath in. And a big breath out. Okay, so as we come out of that one, we're going to slide the bolster to the side. Okay, we're going to slide the blocks to the side, and we'll actually just come all the way down onto your belly. All the way down onto the belly, that back leg slides back, and we're just going to allow your body to slide down onto your belly. Now you can support yourself with the forearms. You might rest your head on top of your stacked hands. Allow your ankles to be soft. Just flop out. Belly swells with inhale against the floor. And then with exhale, we're feeling the pit of the belly soft. Dissolving any rigidity around the organ bodies with breath out. We'll be here for just 2 more breaths. Okay. So our next shape, we will come into Sphinx pose. So we lift the gaze up and we slide our elbows down underneath your shoulders. So essentially this is cinching the whole back body. There's many different ways of doing this pose. If it doesn't feel comfortable to have your head lifted, you can add a block or you can add the bolster. For those of you that feel like you have a lot of space in the spine, the bolster can slide underneath your arms and you can come into this shape. I really like this one for those of us that have a little bit more space. It's nice and supported there. The arms are forward and we can just be in a bit of a deeper extension pretty effortlessly. So you can add that in. You might experiment with blocks and things. With yin, it's always, for different day to day, and all of our postures will look slightly different. So we want to find something that we feel like is pretty effortless. So as we lift the head up, again, if this is feeling like a lot of effort to have your head in a neutral or lifted position, you can bend your elbows, especially if you have your elbows there on the bolster, and bring your hands into prayer and allow your prayer thumbs to land like on your third eye. That's a nice place to be. It's not as strong with the extension because we're not adding the upper part of your neck, but more accessible if you feel like you're straining there to lift your head up. So let's find the pose that we feel like we're going to be in. If you have the bolster underneath your arms and you'd like to up level the pose for the second half of the shape, you can place your elbows on top of the bolster. I'm not going to add a fair amount of extension into the spine, so making sure that feels comfortable for you.
comfort in this pose for another minute. If you're comfortable where you are, just staying there. And if you're still looking to add a little bit more into the shape, you just can bend the knees. That makes it a lot stronger. It's going to pull there even more through the spine. So making sure that that's right for you. You're not someone that enjoys flexion or extension or deep back bending. This probably isn't the best shape with the bent knee. So finding yours. We're here for another 5 breaths. Take our final breath in. If you have your legs bent, we slowly release the legs. And if you have bolsters supported underneath your elbows, let's just slide those forward. And again, we're going to meet here back on our belly. Coming down. Allowing the spine to neutralize there after that last shape. Okay, so our next pose is going to be a twist. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing this, but let's start like this. We're going to come back up onto our elbows, okay? And we'll slide the knees. So you're going to roll over onto your right side body and then draw your knees up so that they're stacked, okay? So you're on your right side body and you have your knees stacked there over to the left. And then we're going to take this right arm and thread the needle under your left, okay? And then the left arm opens up. Now we have lots of props here. So it might work best for you to bring a bolster between your knees, right? That's even a bit more gentle. What a beautiful twist that is. If you wanted to make this stronger, you're going to extend your right leg long and put your left knee on the bolster. So that just adds a little bit more. And if it's something that's very flexible, the third variation is to bring your bolster or your prop on top of your left knee with your right leg extended and your left arm out to the side. So the bolster then becomes like a weight. That's not for everyone. Of course, we're going to be here for a while. And the last thing I'll say is if your chin is reaching very far back in the pose, so you feel like you're kind of breaking the spine, that's a really good indicator. We need something, whether it's a rolled blanket or a block underneath your head, right? To keep the spine in this position a bit more neutral, right? So you could place a block under your head. So just notice if that eats you. I promise you, you'll feel more comfortable in the pose when we can get into a position where your chin is either neutral or slightly tucked in. So as always, we just take our time to figure out our prop combination that feels right for your body.
Whenever we're working with rotation or deep twist, we're bringing the breath really low. So we're working the diaphragm to bring breath down into that kidney, that low belly area. We take one more little sip, the extra breath. And then with exhale, we're pouring the breath out and feeling the body melt into a deeper expression of the rotation. We're working with the bladder and the kidney meridians. We're really working with longevity. When we work with rotation, we're ensuring that the body stays um, limber. And noticing that here, like really bringing that wave of energy into the spine, like saturating the spine with your breath out, moistening any of the musculature around the spine that feels stiff or brittle. And for the duration of this pose, we're just following the invitation and yin postures to meet ourselves in a quiet and peaceful space inside. Watching the breath move from the inner body. Take 4 more breaths here. And then for your last breath, let's take a big breath in and then even looking to your left, breath out. Okay, and then to come out of this pose, we're actually going to come onto your back. So I know that for those of you that are practicing with me, you might be facing away from me, but just listening to the instructions, pretty simple from here. We're just going to come onto your back, okay, and then bring the bolster if you have it, or the cushion underneath your knees. Okay, if you have the block underneath your head, you can keep it there. We're going to have a rebend on our back for a few breaths. Sense of deep satisfaction washing over your body. In yoga, we call that santosha, needing of nothing else but this moment. Okay, so with your arms, wherever that strap is, that's somewhere around your mat, I'd like you to find that now. Okay. And hopefully that strap has its little tail and it's in a long loop. Okay. And we're going to take our long loop as you lift your right leg to the sky and put the strap onto your right foot. Okay, so it's inside the loop, and the other side of the loop goes behind your head. Now, for most of us, we already have that bolster underneath your knee, and it can definitely stay there. Yeah. So when we put the strap on around your head, you want the strap to be like a visor, right? So it goes right around your ears, essentially, and then the other side of the strap is on the sole of your foot. So many of us know this shape. If you've been coming to yin yoga for any amount of time, you've likely come across this pose where you're laying on your back and you have one leg up to the sky and it's inside of your strap, and the other side of the strap is around the back of your head, like a loop. Now, some of us won't have a strap at home, and that's okay. You could use a scarf and loop the scarf around your foot, and then take your hands and do a loop inside of the scarf so that the arms can just be relaxed and they add like a dead weight to your scarf, and then you can hold onto your foot like this. Now, it doesn't have to be a straight leg, right? If you're really efforting to lengthen your right leg up, we want to just soften at the knee there a little bit. And then you can add that little side to side. So we're allowing your leg in space to fall there from right to left. Right, some of you are ready just to drop straight into stillness. And if that's you, just finding a still shape. Otherwise, just meandering a little bit into the shape, just noticing where your pelvis is. And if you can kind of even out that pelvis by sending your right hip forward and drawing your left leg back, making sure that the back of the head feels even on the floor. And then we just start to arrive in the pose, starting with the softening of your face, the cheeks, the ears falling down towards the mat. Smoothing out your forehead with your awareness. Today's class is going to go slightly over an hour. So for those of you that have a lot of flexibility in your hamstrings, you can tighten up, either tighten the strap up by pulling on that little tail, or you can reach your arms overhead. So you start reaching your arms up and overhead, and that movement, that action will pull on your strap and add a little bit more weight in the pose. We're about halfway there. Peaceful eyes, the most subtle smile in your mouth. take another 4 breaths here. With these final 2 breaths out, we're leaning your head back into the strap. You're using the power of exhale to skillfully relax. Last breath in. And a deep breath out. Okay. So to come out, let's first take the strap out behind your head if you're using one. Okay. And then we're just going to allow the right leg to float down through space. You can use the strap to guide the leg down slowly. And then again, we'll just have a few moments so you can just allow the strap to be there. Noticing the difference between the right and left side after that pose, how alive that whole right leg feels, that pulsating feeling down through the sole of your right foot. Okay, so before we come into our next shape, let's roll out your ankles. We've already done our wrists in this class, but we're going to take our toes and just draw the biggest circles possible. We'll do about 4 circles in one direction. We'll do 4 circles in the other direction. And let's take a deep breath in and a big breath out. Okay, we're going to come on to the other side of the hamstring stretch yet. We're going to finish up with that one a bit later. So what we'll do here is take your left hand and slide the bolster up to the left side of your mat. So we're going to come into the twist. And then we're going to roll over onto the left side body. Okay, so we have our knees bent over to the right leg stacked on top of the left one. Okay, and then we're threading this left arm underneath. So the knees are stacked, the left arm threads underneath. And there's lots of different ways of doing this pose. Remember, if your head is reaching towards the floor, you can always add that block underneath your head. The legs can stack like sandwich on top of the bolster. This is the most gentle expression of the pose. We have the knees bent at 90 degrees, the bolster between the knees, the head on the block, and the right arm reaching gently out to the side. If you're someone that has a little bit more flexibility through the spine, we are lengthening then out through the left leg and bringing the right leg on top of the cushion or the bolster and then opening up. Maybe you're removing the block. And for the final, most advanced variation of this rotation, we're going to take the prop, the cushion of the bolster on top of the right leg. Whenever we do this shape, we want the left rib cage on this side to be as close to the right knee as you can. So sometimes we need to press the left elbow down into the floor and walk the rib cage towards the right leg. Okay. I'm also adding this extra weight into my right hand. So that's optional, right? We have a weight, whether it's a block or something else on the right arm or in the hand. Okay. We're getting settled into this rotation. And we're visualizing our breath like an irrigation system for the spine. Really bringing lots of that hydration into the spine, all the musculature around the spine. We're noticing if there's areas of the spine that are harder to connect into. We spend a little bit more time there. We work with the yin side of this pair. We're working with the kidneys. It's really about the structure of the body, the kidneys themselves, structures of yeah, the physical body. And we work with this energy that's yang pair. It's really the energetic spine, the energy of the light body, as we say. And we really are just an electric body. So we work with the urinary bladder channel. We're just kind of um, tuning up our energetic switchboard. And we should feel after these types of practices is a real sense of clarity, deep calm. All right, in this pose, we have another 5 breaths. So again, we're reaching with exhale. We're feeling the body melt into the pose. In poses and this like stillness and this space just to be so luxurious. Just feeling into that. The pleasure of the quietude, your own space, your own breath. Even against this deep twist, we find those big belly breaths. Breathing against the pressure of the twist, big breath in. One more little sip. And parting the lips. Exhaling and letting the breath go. Okay, so to come out of that again, we're just going to remove the bolster. We're going to unravel onto your back. The bolster can support underneath your knees as a cushion. Support your low back after that. Few breaths here in a rebound before our final pose of practice. Let's find our strap loop or our scarf. And let's loop our strap around your foot. Okay. And then the other side of the strap goes like a visor around the back of your head and just over your ears there. I invite you to find a bit of gentle movement in this pose. So a little bit side to side. The arms can be down by your sides. If you choose to reach the arms up overhead, it will be a lot stronger there. We're trying to find that point right in the ball of your foot that presses up into the strap. A lot of times in this pose, the foot like everts. So we want to feel like if the pinky side of the foot is kind of turning up, it's just pull on that outside strap and even out the sole of the foot to the ceiling. So the sole of the foot is flush to the ceiling above you. Okay, and then we get settled in, eyes soften, even roll back towards the back of your head. We relax the body like we're just hanging out in a hammock somewhere much warmer than we are now. The body unravels in this pose, and we're interested in watching that process happen. Consciously giving ourselves permission to let go. Just reminding yourself that this is our last pose of practice. So we're so close to Shavasana. Really present with this last shape for the final minute here. Last 3 breaths. Take our final breath in. And then leaning back with exhale. We first take the strap out from behind your head. Very good. And then guiding your leg down through space. Both knees landing on the bolster, the arms out to the side. Before we do any setting up for Shavasana, let's just have a moment of feeling the body's response to that previous pose. Feel aliveness through the left leg, the thrumming through the sole of the foot. And then from here, if you don't have the props that you'd like to bring with you into Shavasana, we'll gather those around you now. So maybe you're adding a blanket or a block or something else to truly support you in your final rest of Shavasana. So we'll get set up there, however we like to do that. And then we'll do a little breath technique before we get fully settled in to our Shavasana. If you'd like to add extra blocks or anything like that, making sure that those are nearby. So you can put those on top of the body, perhaps a blanket.
You don't need to move if you're perfectly comfortable the way you are, then just stay right where you are for your final Shavasana shape. So as we lay down in this position, I'm going to feel the symmetry between the back of the head pressing down, the shoulders evenly weighted down, the backs of both hands, visualizing the length of the spine there. You might tuck your shoulder blades together to feel a bit of broadness across the chest. In Shavasana, we turn the palms to face up. We have sacrum, triangular plate at the base of the spine, weighted down towards the floor. A space inside of the kneecaps, inside of the ankle joints, and the heels weighted nicely on the floor. We're going to start with a Viloma breath with exhale. So that means an incremental exhale. And then we'll start to increase the end slowly. We'll start with a breath out. Take a big breath in through the nose. And we exhale the first third of the lungs and then pause. And then the middle third of the lungs, we exhale and pause. And then all the way to the bottom of the lungs. So the lungs completely empty with breath, and we'll add a slight pause at the bottom of exhale before we take a breath in. Filling all the way up with air, big breath in, and then we exhale the top third of the lungs. And we pause. And then the middle third of the lungs, we exhale. And then you pause. And then all the way down to the bottom of the lungs, releasing the breath. And then holding the breath out for 3, 2, 1, and inhaling. Top third, middle third. All of the air leaving the lungs. And pause for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and inhale. You're going to do 3 more rounds on your own. What I invite you to do is use a kumbhaka, so a breath retention that suits you. So 3, 5, 8, 10 counts for breath out. Keeping the body really relaxed. And when you've done your few rounds of Viloma into your kumbhaka, just letting go of the technique and allowing yourself to slip into a deep state of relaxation, Shavasana.